Aloha, welcome to this video. So this week I'm going to be doing kind of a fun project. I've always wanted to make a straight razor or use a straight razor. I never have. I really like the look of them. I think they're pretty awesome. And a few months back when I was making a whole bunch of swordfish bill knives, I thought it'd be really cool to make like a straight razor. Obviously you can't shave with it. The natural material you just can't sharpen. I am going to try to make it as sharp as I can, but you won't be able to shave with it. But I thought it'd be really cool and it'd be a fun little project. I'm going to try to make most of the components out of natural materials. And so the pivot joint that's going to be on the handle that's going to be on the long section here that connects to the handle, I'm actually going to be making out of a piece of deer antler. And then the rest of it, this is a swordfish bill. And then I have leftover material on this piece of epoxy and koawood. So I think it's gonna look pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for it. The overall design shape, there's a knife maker that I've seen make some pretty awesome straight razors on Instagram. And he had a couple of really cool designs that I liked. So I kind of figured I would just follow that pattern. The first step here, once I cut out the overall shape of the knife out of the swordfish bill, is I need to kind of get that general shape put into the wood, this block of wood here. I've never made this before, and so I wasn't sure what steps to do first. What I decided to do was resaw that block first, so cut it in half, and then I was going to stick it back together, draw in my shape, and then cut it out. The reason why I did it that way is it'll be a lot easier to cut it in half when it's in a block shape, versus after I kind of start to design it. And then from here, I was kind of unsure. I thought about cutting out that inside of the wood, and then I decided, no, I'm just going to put a spacer between the two, and I'm going to be working the whole thing down, which is pretty much what I see other knife makers do with regards to like your handle material and folding knives. So that's kind of the general gist of what I was going to follow. The next step here is making my spacer. Now I should have done a little bit more research in the beginning on how to make a straight razor, and so my original thought was the spacer was going to act as both a spacer and a stop to the blade. And so you can see right there how the blade would kind of come in and then it would kind of lock into place. Well, I realized after working on this for about a day to get the design and shape and everything correct, that is not actually right. And so you'll see that here in a little bit. So the first step though is I cut in the hole here for where that pivot is going to go, and then I continue to shape this down so I can get it to a good shape. I'm not going to cut it free from the rest of the body of the antler until I get it closer to where I put it into place. I haven't yet decided if I wanted to make it so that I can remove this pivot, or if I want to glue it into place, and the only parts that will be loose will be where the handle is. I'm not entirely sure. All I know is that I'm going to use that as that little pivot point. But before I go any further, I wanted to continue testing with the handle, and that's where, after a little bit of testing and a little bit more research, I realized that that's not the way that these are meant to be. And so what I decided to do then is, all right, I need to cut this back and make it so that the knife handle, the end of the knife, can free spin all the way around. And so I just cut, after doing a ton of work on that piece, I just cut it off. And now I have it to a point where the swordfish bill blade, when it's open, can actually spin all the way around, and it can be used like a straight razor. So the next step here is to glue the handle materials together. I am going to put a single peg through that thicker section, and that's just going to be a mechanical hold on the handle material. But before I do that, I'm going to be epoxying these together. I would have used wood glue, but the section where the spacer meets the handle material is epoxy, so it's going to be epoxy on wood. So I figured using an epoxy glue would be better than a wood glue, just because it'll adhere to the epoxy ends a lot better. And then I'm going to drill through there and put in I'm going to put in a 1/4-inch wooden peg, and I'll epoxy that as well. And so that should give it a nice strong mechanical hold and make sure that that doesn't fall apart. Obviously, you get enough leverage on it, you could break it apart, but it won't pull apart on its own, just kind of hanging out there. So now that I have that glued together, I can go ahead and start shaping on this handle. And what's really cool is taking off that top layer of epoxy, you can really start to see the design of the epoxy and wood that's underneath it. It looks pretty awesome. Super excited about that. It is still quite a bit wider than I need, but that's not a big deal because I'll continue working on it. This next step is going to be working on the swordfish bill. So the swordfish bill had a couple problems. So the first problem is I broke this joint, and I was afraid of this originally because I made that really thin. And the swordfish bill that I was working on had quite a bit of pores and holes in it. Sometimes they're more solid all the way through, sometimes they have more membranes. This one was a little bit more porous. I was able to fix that joint with some CA glue, and I thought I was good to go. I was just going to be a little bit more careful with it. Again, this is not going to be something that's going to be used for testing or for anything real, so I wasn't too worried about it. And so I continued just to work on it, make sure everything fit nice and well, continue to sand on the piece. I was needing to sand down the blade, and I wanted to give it more of a hollow grind, which is what traditional straight razors have. They have a hollow grind, and it gets thick at the spine. I won't be able to make mine thick at the spine because it's natural material, but I can give it a little bit of a hollow grind. And so I decided to clamp it, and as I was clamping it into this piece and I was moving it with my finger, I snapped it. And a combination of it just exploding, it hit the ground and broke into multiple parts, and I just was furiated. So I briefly thought about fixing it, but no, I just need to remake it. I have a few more swordfish bills, so I'm going to grab one of those and start on that. But for this week, I am done with this piece. I just can't believe I busted it like that. Sometimes it happens. Well, mahalo plenty for everyone that's watching. If you're interested in it, tune in on next week. I might have it finished by then. And mahalo plenty, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.